Hi, Nabil. Let's take a look at this new set of essays you have for us. The first one is about computer education for children. Let's see what you wrote. The modern world seems, here with an S, to be run by algorithms. While educational bodies deem computer science is mandatory within most of the study curriculum programs, others hold that information technology skills can be naturally mastered from social media platforms. This essay subscribes to can't really say this. You could say that the essay subscribes to the belief that, etc., etc., but you can't say that it subscribes to the former claim. I'm glad that you're using this expression. It's one that I personally like, but you also have to know how to use it correctly. So you could say that, let's see. You could say that the essay supports the former claim, or, I know that you're trying to avoid the use of I, and I understand that, but, in this kind of essay, as I told you before, it's okay. It's asking you very directly for your opinion, so it's okay if you say, I believe, really. Don't avoid it entirely. Your efforts could be focused on something far more important. So you could say, I believe that computer education should be conducted in schools, though with the understanding that the youth are living in a highly digitized environment. Like, that's fine. Okay? So, sometimes when you try to learn these expressions, you're really putting a lot of effort into something that's not really that important. So, really feel okay with writing, I believe, I support, I am of the opinion that. It's okay. All right. It has often been asserted that in current society, young generations are far more digitally, look, you've got an adjective, and then you need to have an adverb here, more digitally skilled than elder generations, since they're more willing to cultivate online interactions rather than real ones. Okay. According to a highly cited scientific paper, not realized, published by Rome University, over 90% of Italian adolescents use social media platforms on a daily basis to communicate with their peers. This shows how smartphones, careful with your spelling, has become young people's '(s) third arm. Now, okay, you see, this is what I mean. This to me is off topic. You're talking about how much the young generation uses digital devices, but it has nothing to do with what the essay is asking you. It asked you a very specific question. Is it necessary to have computer education, or do young people learn these on their own? In this paragraph, you didn't really talk about it. You just said that they're more digital, but the rest of the paragraph had nothing to do, had only to do with cell phones. Okay? So I felt like the development of this was off topic. Let me tell you what I mean. You said that they're more digitally skilled than young generations. Okay, than elder generations. I'm sorry. So full stop here as far as I'm concerned. And then you should have talked about how from the time they are very young, children learn how to use digital devices, including a computer. It's part of their everyday life to use what are they called? Smartphones, to use laptops. So there is a comfort level that has never existed among any other generation before. Okay, so that kind of development would have been okay, but you had to talk about computers, you had to talk about a variety of digital devices. Here, you just had this, that they're using social media, which is absolutely not on topic at all. So this is not helping your argument. Okay? So let's continue. That being said, one school of thought, careful with your typing, holds, with an S, the notion that computer language programs, okay, check out the word programs. If you want to use the British spelling, then you have to put an E after that M. If you want to use the American spelling, you have to take off this M. But the point is that this spelling is not appropriate in either spelling of the word, okay? Neither British English or American English. So it's either one M for American English or double M-E for British English. Okay. Programs are seen as a fundamental skill, careful with your grammar, as a skill, singular, in the working world. To illustrate this claim, a recent article published by Milan University, no comma necessary, discovered that job positions related to information technology have exponentially increased over the last 5 years as enterprises are starving to hire young, talented developers. Therefore, it is clear that for modern education systems, it is pivotal to extend their students' horizons in trending computer science topics. Okay, I still think this could have been more on topic. All right, let's move on, but I'll tell you what I mean. In the final, I don't know what this word is supposed to be. I'm assuming it's final. In the final analysis, educators should equip their students with the tools, that's not the right word, for success. Teaching subjects in computer science subjects could provide a positive outcome for students and ensure them a greater longevity in their future workplace. Okay, workforce, in their future workplace, not workforce. Okay, people are the workforce, but the place where they work is the workplace. All right. So basically, I think here, Nabil, that this was really rather off topic. Your development was off topic. Yes, you were talking about computers and young people, but you really didn't address the issue that they asked you to address. They asked you to talk about computer education. Is it compulsory? Okay, or rather, not even is it compulsory. They said, is it necessary for computer education to be compulsory? Okay, that's the question. Is it necessary for computer education to be compulsory? Or do children learn about computers on their own? Okay, and you didn't really address that. All right, here you told me how smartphones are young people's third arm. This was not relevant. You should have told me about how, since young people are essentially surrounded by technology from the day they're born, that it's really not necessary to waste precious school time on computer education. That would have been okay. Now, here, presumably, you're trying to tell us that they should be taught about computers. Okay? Again, you talked about it okay here. You said that computer language programs are seen as fundamental skills in the working world. We didn't ask about the working world. You should have, again, talked about it. That being said, one school of thought is that students need to have the proper foundation in computers in order to be prepared for the working world in the future. That would have been okay. Okay? Because we're talking about the school life. Okay? We're talking about education, K through 12. So don't change the focus to the world of work just yet. All right? And then here you talked about jobs. So I really felt like you missed the mark here. Yes, you talked about computers, but you didn't really talk about, you weren't so focused on the prompt and the details that they asked you to talk about. So for me, that's a problem. It was semi on topic, but it was also semi off topic. Okay? So you needed to really hone in on what they were asking you and develop that and not what you thought they were asking you about. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about here. Task achievement was a problem, Nabil. Okay. I guess that's clear. So let's talk now about the birth and death rates in France. Okay. So birth rates basically exceeded deaths except for 1975. Great. The bar chart illustrates how birth and death rates have changed in France between 1960 and 2010. Not 2010, it says 2015 here, so careful with your accuracy. The data is provided in millions and is taken from the United Nations statistics. Overall, there was an upward trend in terms of birth rates, with death rates relatively low. Okay, it's not your fault. Here, this is a mistake. This should have been 2010. Sorry. Okay. Let's see. Fine. The French population, here you need a the. The French population has markedly increased over the span of time under examination. In fact, the number of people in the year 2015 was almost 3 times higher than that of 1965, 3.25 and 1.25 million respectively. It is noteworthy that over 1 million people were born between 1985 and 1995, accounting for, not as, accounting for the biggest change. Okay, this shows how birth, not born rates, birth rates rised, careful with your words here, birth rised continuously in the period under examination. Moving to death rates, okay, it seems that after a peak in 1985, death rates, okay. After a peak in 1985, the numbers slightly decreased in the remaining years. Okay, you don't tell us what that peak is, though. In fact, in 2015, in 2015, the number of deaths, the number of deaths, S, no people, no apostrophe, was nearly half of that in 1985. So in 2015, it was nearly half. Okay. 0.8 versus 1.5 million respectively. Interestingly, in 1975, death rates, 1.4 million, were slightly higher than birth rates, 1.3. And the final analysis seems to be the case that French population has increased considerably, while deaths were significantly less. Okay, so it's fine, but grammar was a problem. You made some errors here in your grammar. I liked overall what you selected. Although I can't really say that I love this paragraph. I mean, this paragraph was okay. You talked about the beginning, fine. You talked about the peak, fine. You talked about the end, fine. But here it seemed like you missed the beginning. You didn't tell me anything about 1965. Okay. I kind of felt like the paragraph about deaths was really lacking. So for me, there are some things here that are really important. First of all, it would have been nice for you to compare the death rates to the birth rates while you're talking about them. First, I would have talked about 1965, and I would have said that it was lower. It was 1 million, okay, compared to the 1.25 for birth. I would say that 1975 was the only year in the chart where death rates exceeded birth rates. Okay, I would say that the peak of death rates were in 1985 at 1.5 million. And following that, with every decade, the death rate declined, okay, to a low of, what is that, 70.75 in 2015. And I would have also mentioned this here. So you've got this low here, and then you've got this high here. This is the peak in 2015 of birth rates. So you've got 3.25 for birth rates, whereas, 0.75 for death rates. So, think about that in terms of like the proportion. It's about like 1/4 or so, I guess. Okay, so that's, I think, a really important thing to talk about. Okay, I think it's very interesting to point out that the birth rates continually rose, whereas the death rates had that peak in 1985 and then declined. Okay, and I didn't get that from your description. Okay, that's really the main thing to talk about. So that birth rates rose throughout the period, okay, increasing threefold for birth, but then death had that peak in 1985 and then declined. Okay, so that's really what your overview should have covered. And that's the overall image that I should have gotten from reading your description. Some of that was missing for me. So I really wanted to see that paragraph about the death rates a little stronger. Okay, so go ahead, work on these, correct them a little bit, and then let's see more essays from you. Good luck.